Hey, Diana, did you know showing up for the third day is the key to your success?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I am your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my number one, my COO, my right hand, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Not much, Mark. I had FOMO last week.
Yes. So last week, and this will be the topic of the podcast today, I'm gonna go over basically the keynote speakers from the Atticus Summit, which I just got back from in Orlando.
Which I missed, which is why I had FOMO.
Yeah, you were supposed to come with me, and you bailed.
And I'm just so very grateful, Mark. Obviously listeners, Mark and I have a very tense relationship. But I held back because Mark allowed me to miss a work event to be present for my daughter's birthday. And it was amazing. And maybe the last time she wants to be around me for a long while, but so right. I appreciated it all the more.
She is going into junior high, as I remember. They call it middle school these days.
Oh, okay.
My kids got offended when I called junior high. Like, it's not junior high, it's middle school.
Well, now I'm taking notes.
I know.
How to not offend my tween.
Don't offend your tween there, because she will. This is the years when they start to wander off. Now they do come back when they hit college because they need money. Okay. Well,
this was probably my last little hurrah then. So I was very grateful to hang back. Though, I think I can say this. I don't know if I'm going to offend Mark Powers and Steve Riley when I say this, but I have a love-hate relationship with Summit. So just what is Atticus Summit and how does it differ from the other quarterly meetings?
Right. So with Atticus, and Atticus is our lawyer coaching group that we talk about frequently on this podcast, atticusadvantage.com for those who are interested. I will pimp out anybody. So the first 3 quarters of the year when we meet in Orlando, we're basically meeting in our small groups. I'm in the trial lawyer group, the contingency fee lawyer group, where we go over, business practices, basically. It's
tactical things. We read a book, we have homework, we have assignments and all the things.
Right. We go over the fundamentals of business, how to run a business, how to market your business, all the things.
Roundtable, just like problems that every firm is having or firms are having.
Yeah. We get together in a group of about 20, 25 people, and it helps roundtable, some of the issues that apparently when somebody's having an issue, more than likely most of us are having the same issue. So basically working on our marketing or our firm flywheel. Mm-hmm. The summit, which is in November, is a little bit different. That's when they bring all the small groups together into one big room. So where there's about 400 people. And the way the day is structured, day one is that we have a series of keynote speakers that'll talk more about motivation, about culture, about some of the bigger issues. And then, so we have 3 of those. And then we also had 3 what we call game-changing speakers, which are members of Atticus who have had specific issues that have come up with their firm, and they've come up with ways to change the game within their law firm. And they give presentations on basically that. Day 2, we switch back to small group, and we go back to our small group to again start working on our project. So unfortunately, I had a family emergency, and I had to come back Thursday night. So I missed small group on Friday, but I was at the Game Changer Summit on Thursday. So it was a great time. Got to see a lot of people. There's a lot of really cool vendors there. The vendors that they bring into the summit, to be a vendor at the Atticus Summit, you have to basically already be doing business and be recommended by one of our members.
Okay.
So it's not just any shyster that's selling snake oil that can come in
Or
and
they can
just
pay
for a
exhibitor
booth.
fee. Yeah.
Yeah, you must be recommended by one of our members. Therefore, somebody there is vouching for you. So there was about 30, 35 vendors there, some of which we already use. Couple, Case Status was there. Bird Accounting was there. We used them. There was probably one or two others that I'm blanking on. But it's a good time to spend some time with those people and figure out what's going on and what's new, what are their new offerings.
And I think that that's probably why I have a love-hate relationship with Summit, because I love seeing people that's the only time we'll see some of our Atticus
Right.
is then. And it is a 2-night event rather than the one night that you and I usually do for the quarterlies. So it's more of a true, the first night at the bar.
It's a frickin' party, okay?
Yes, sir. That's what I was trying to say professionally.
Yes.
So that's the love part of it, seeing people and catching up, and it's a real community.
Right.
The hate part
We
of
call
it
each
is
other Atticusins.
exactly, and the hate part of it is that you do a whole day of mindset. This is what we're talking about today,
Right.
and that is very hard for me. Like, I think that's why you and I kind of work so very well together. It's like, no, give me solution-based things. I will read a book and I will have homework, and then I will go and execute on said homework. Sitting and listening to great keynote speakers last year anyway were phenomenal. I still think about some of them today. So they stick with you, but sitting and just listening on things that
that is
harder.
So one of the unique things about Atticus, it is not a sit lecture type thing, which quite frankly would be very difficult. Like you say, kind of boring, or at least difficult to sit through.
Yeah, sitting still is not my forte.
Right. So at our normal workshops, they're really that. They're workshops where we're interacting, we're filling out things. We get up out of our chairs frequently and move around the room and get into smaller groups of 2 or 3 or 4. And we share the work that we're doing. So it's very interactive, very much a workshop. Whereas when we have the keynotes on day 1 of the summit, yes, and they go for a full hour. All of them are scheduled for an hour. Mm-hmm. So that is sitting for an hour. And when I was a younger lawyer, I could do that because I was enthralled by it. As an older lawyer who's been around the block, several hundred times, and I've heard most things, there's not a whole lot new under the sun. It is a bit difficult to sit there for an entire hour. They do have some stand-up tables in the back for those of us who have back problems, who just can't sit, and we can go get a cup of coffee.
Ones.
The antsy ones, the ones with ants in our pants. So we can go stand in the back.
Well, and you find it physically challenging. I find it mentally tough and I think that that's probably why it is so very important that you're doing a podcast on this, Mark, so that we can all learn from it. But it's mentally tough for me to just step away from doing and just absorb some of these mental things, mental suggestions. And so who were the 3 speakers this year, Mark?
So the 3 keynotes. So today we're going to talk about the 3 keynotes. I'm going to kind of go over my notes and some of the key points that I have found and maybe how we can incorporate some of these concepts within the practice of law. None of the 3 keynotes were lawyers. So they were basically talking about more general mindset type stuff that we need to then figure out how to reinterpret and see how we can apply to the practice of law. So the 3 speakers, Dre Baldwin, and I've seen and heard Dre Baldwin before. He's got a big social media presence. He's a well-known speaker, former professional athlete, a basketball player, and kind of his concept is work on your game, which obviously I can see a lot of parallels there, working on your game to working on your business. And there was Barb Betts. I had not heard of Barb before, but she was talking about becoming unforgettable. So hers was really sort of a more broad-based marketing speech, but she was really focused on relationship and referral building. So kind of had a whole concept behind that. And then the third one is, God knows, I'm not sure if I can pronounce his last name, Matthew Emerzian.
I was curious.
Emerzian. We're just going to call him Matthew.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to know, I just spelled his name out. You can look him up. So he was a little bit more touchy-feely. He talked about human-centered leadership, meaning, mental health, and culture. The cool thing that he did, his concept is about mattering. You want to matter. And he passed out these little rubber bracelets for everybody. He had hundreds of them, that says, I matter, we matter, you matter.
Like the little
Little
cool.
lower, yeah, and a little, I thought that was particularly, touching, because we deal with that. We deal with a lot of clients who feel they don't matter, and so I started thinking about that. If we could I wanted to get some more of those bracelets, maybe to give them to all of our employees.
Oh, I think it's.
I think it would be, because the whole idea is, you matter as an employee to this firm. Clients, you matter as a client to this firm. You all matter. And sometimes people just don't feel heard. They don't feel seen. So it was very touchy-feely. And admittedly, I and probably you are not the most touchy-feely people in the world, but it did strike a chord. So I really did. I liked his presentation. I didn't know there was that many to-dos that came out of it, but I liked the concept. And he had a very interesting backstory.
Cool. So today we're going to talk about your takeaways from the 3 keynote speakers from the Atticus Summit and how we can maybe apply to them as law firm owners.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. All right, we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead and Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
And we're back. All right, Diana. So, quick side note, I was talking to Mark Powers. Mm-hmm. He was there, and he was asking about this podcast. Somehow he had heard about this podcast.
Oh, he's not a listener?
I don't believe he's a listener, because
we're gonna make him a convert.
We're gonna make him a convert. But anyway, he was kind of curious about it, and like, how can we support your podcast and all the stuff. Like, well, yeah, you can pump it out to all of your members. That would be great. That would save me a step or two. But anyway, so had a good time talking with Mark. And who else? Good time talking with our friend Ed Alexander. I was pumping up Ed Alexander's podcast a couple of episodes ago.
On succession planning.
On succession planning.
He was one of our takeaways.
Right. I forget his actual, the podcast number. You should remember. You remember all the podcasts.
I don't have the number offhand. But yes, it was. I think I really enjoyed that.
Right. So I got a good conversation with Ed. Good conversation with Tom Tona, who has his podcast as well.
I like listening to both of theirs.
I've been a guest on Tom's podcast, so we're just
all 3 of those podcasts.
Yeah. So we've just been podcast, junkies.
Well, as a side note on our podcast, the one where you had your explicit mug.
Oh, yes, that one.
It did not get an explicit rating.
Big ass fan.
Mark.
That's a registered trademark. That's not explicit.
Is that why it wasn't explicit?
It's a registered trademark.
I think that Apple just missed it that day.
No.
So we're going to talk first about Dre Baldwin.
So Dre's interesting. I've seen him around a lot on social media. I think he does a daily podcast of some sort, like doing a daily podcast. That seems...
much.
That's a lot, but hey, I think he monetizes it. He makes money out of it. So I guess that's your job. But so former basketball player, and I kind of related to Trey because Trey told the story about how he got cut from his freshman basketball team, and he got cut as a sophomore, and he got cut as a junior, and finally made his high school basketball team as a senior. And then amazingly enough, went on to play presumably college, and then 9 years of pro basketball. Now, not the NBA, I don't think, but around Europe and the professional leagues. But
I
whatever,
see.
pro ball's pro ball. But now he's kind of turned that into the speaking motivational tour, basically applying professional athlete training principles to the world of business and basically finding the parallels there. So he came up with 5 principles. And the first one I really loved because I really, really, really freaking related to this, called the third day. Can you guess what the third day is about?
No, sir. Is this in basketball?
It's any athlete, anybody. It could be us. So here's his story about the third day. So here's the analogy. So let's say you haven't worked out in a while, and I know that's not you. You've never not worked out a day in your life. But Marc has done this. Marc is like right now. I'm in the middle of. I haven't worked out in really seriously in months.
Wow.
I've had an injury, so I'm recovering. Don't roll your eyes at me.
I didn't realize I was contemplative.
Yes. So just bear with me just for the story's sake.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so let's assume that you haven't worked out in a long, long time, maybe years. And you decide you're going to hire a trainer and you're going to start working out again. All right, first day, going with the trainer. The trainer kicks your butt, wears you out. But at the end of it, you're feeling good. Like,
Endorphins.
damn, the endorphins kick in. You're proud of yourself. Like, oh, that was a good one. Then you go back for day 2. Day 2 is a little tougher, but you kick in. You're powering through it, and, the trainer kicks your ass again because it's what trainers do. And there's this saying with the trainers, like, but what really matters is the third day. Because it's the third day where rigor mortis kicks in. Oh, Uncle Ricky, as we used to call it when I was playing football. Uncle Ricky kicks in. Your body is sore. You're starting to feel kind of miserable. That initial soreness that you get when you haven't worked out a long time is starting to take hold. And the trainers basically say the people who actually show up the third day, that's the hump day. That's the people. That's where you separate, the people who are serious, from the people who are not serious. Will they show up the third day? In other words, when the going starts getting tough and the novelty of it wears off, will you keep showing up day after day after day? And that's really the first principle of him. The principle of the third day is when the novelty ends, the real decisions start to show up. And who continues to come the third day, the fourth day, so forth and so forth. So it's really what he's talking about. It's the principle of perseverance and working past the initial, discomfort after the endorphins of the newness of it works out. I'm going to analogize this to opening up your practice. Let's say you're with a law firm. You decide to leave. You break away. You open up your shingle. You open up your office, hang your shingle. That newness, the first couple of days, the first couple of weeks, first couple of months, whatever it is, it's cool. I've got my own place. I've got my own letterhead. I did this back in 1992 or 3. I can't remember now. But then all of a sudden, reality starts to kick in. You're not bringing in any money. You're
writing a lot of checks.
You're writing a lot of checks.
Yeah.
The people who do come in the door are like, the bottom feeders that you really don't want as clients. Then that's when reality kicks in. And can you persevere? Can you stick it out? Will you show up the third day? And the third day meaning the third day, the fourth day, and every day after. So I really like that analogy because what I've seen in business is a lot of people can't stick it out. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't get over that hump. I had moments where I thought about quitting a long time ago. I think we've talked about that on this podcast. I had many moments where I thought about quitting, like I'll just go get a job, work for somebody. But in the end, if you stick it out and get over that hump and get that, I'm going to analogize back to last week, and get that flywheel rolling. Get the flywheel rolling and get things really going, then you can have tremendous success. But it takes a long time. You have to have persistence. You have to have fortitude. So that was his first principle. And that's the one I really related to, because that whole third day working out, I have done that on many occasions. Work out, stop working out, like, damn it, I am sore as hell. Do I really want to keep doing this?
Yeah, so, I do the Peloton app, and one of my favorite Peloton instructors, Jess Sims, she says, I don't count on my motivation to get me to work out. I count on my discipline. Like, I don't count on whether or not I'm going to feel like working out that day. I count on my discipline to tell me that I'm working out that day, because if I'm not going to feel like it some days.
Yeah.
And I think that that's obviously very applicable to business as well. And especially for those of us, I think, Mark, we've talked a lot about, and probably made some of our listeners a little envious, but this year your flywheel has completely taken off, almost taken on a life of its own, which is also its own separate problem. But when you're still, last year, I would say that it was a lot of that grind of just showing up every day and trying to push, literally trying to get your flywheel going, and just trying to do the same thing over and over again, and not really seeing any measurable results, but still trusting the process. And I think that that's what you're talking about with the third day. So I know you said he had 5. What are the 5 principles, Mark? You really liked the first one. What are the other 2 through 5?
Okay, 2 through 5. Well, I'm going to take them one by one, because
Okay.
I got to talk through them. So number 2 is separation day. That is when you show the mental toughness necessary to separate yourself from the competition. Don't just be average, I think is his term. Don't be average, be superior. Figure out ways to separate yourself from your competition. How can you be better? And he was relating it, of course, to Michael Jordan, and how Michael Jordan worked his tail off even though he was a superstar. And he was maniacal about it because he wanted to separate himself from his competition. And when you're at the professional level, even a 1% separation can become huge. So I thought about that, like, how can we separate ourselves from our competition? I think a lot of our competition are technically good lawyers. I thought, and it came to my mind, the way we can really separate ourselves from our competition is our customer service. Mm-hmm. How can we be better at customer service? How can we make people feel better about coming to us? Because, it is hard to separate yourself technically in what we do from your competition. All of our friendly competitors here in Houston, most of them are pretty good at what they do. We all have developed a level of proficiency in handling disability claims. But what can separate us? It's how we make you feel about the representation. And that's what can separate us. And that's hard. That's not easy to do. You have to think about it. You have to think it through. You have to get that instilled throughout the culture of your firm. But that was his second principle. How can you separate yourself? He called it separation day. The third principle is the super you principle, having the confidence to know that you can get it done. Having that self-belief, even when the going gets tough, you need to have self-belief. You need to know what's sort of the Stockdale principle. Help me with the Stockdale principle. I know we're starting to quote this on every podcast.
No, and it's so good, and I'm going to mess it up. But believing that you will prevail in the end, even if all the facts basically tell you that you're not going
Right.
to.
In other words, having the confidence and the self-discipline to keep going. Number 4, mental conditioning. How long before you move on? Mental toughness. And he was relating that again to an athlete. A lot of times training for the big day, it's fun to play the game, but all the hours of training that you have to go into it to prepare for game day, is hard. It can be physically painful. It can be mentally painful. So you have to work on your mental conditioning and become mentally tough. And he broke it down, the process for becoming mentally tough. 1 is repetition. 2 is immersion. 3 is emotional imprinting. I said 4. It was really 3. So basically, that's how athletes get used to the difficulty in training. They get used to the repetition. They immerse themselves in what they're doing. And he used the term emotional imprinting. And I'm not sure how he defined it. The way I would define emotional imprinting is basically meaning that I accept this reality that I've chosen for myself. I've accepted that this is hard, okay? And therefore, my emotions are not going to get in the way of my habits, the tough habits of working out every day or working hard on my business. I think it's more of an emotional concept. It was the one thing he talked about that I really didn't quite understand. We should have Googled that. What would you call that? Emotional imprinting.
Well, it sounds like, and I didn't realize that we were going to talk about this, but it sounds like, resistance, your mind wants to resist the change. And so for me in the past, the application that I would think of when I was listening to you introduce this concept is that when I stop fighting the reality, it becomes a lot easier for me. So for example, this has been a tough year. Like it's just, it was beautiful at the beginning, the flywheel just taking off and seeing incredible revenue, Mark. I mean, like your firm hey, these are fun things. And then at some point it got a little scary because it was just growing so fast. And, you tell me all the time, what were you doing working on the weekend? And I'm just like, Mark.
You texted me Sunday morning, and I'm like, why are you texting me Sunday morning?
I emailed you.
Oh,
okay,
email.
Let's be
Sorry,
clear.
you
So I
emailed me.
respected the boundary of you not, I'm not that bad, Mark, but I was working. But, the reality is that my job has never been a 40-hour week job, but it's certainly not right now. But for that kind of the messy middle of the year, I was fighting that. Like, I was like, why is this so hard? The firm's doing great. Why am I, churning so much? And it was because when I finally accepted, I was like, oh, you know what? This level that we're playing at is a whole nother level. And I accepted that growth has its own challenges and was going to require me to grow as a leader, as a COO, as all the roles that I play in this firm. It became a lot easier. Just acceptance of the level that you're playing at, I think is where, is the way I interpreted that.
Gotcha. So basically Dre was kind of a mindset type speaker, which then led into the next keynote speaker, which is Barb Betts. And she was really talking about relationships. So the first speaker kind of like, all right, here's your mindset. The next speaker is, all right, so this is sort of the long-term game. It's all about relationships. So Barb is a relationship strategist, is how she frames herself. And she works with companies, firms, individuals on basically strategies to build better relationships. What we call here in the firm, I guess we call relationship marketing or relational marketing. Basically our referral network, what we try to build relationships. This podcast is a perfect example of one way we try to build relationships. I see all of my friends and my friends say, hey, Mark, I've been listening to your podcast. It's a way to build a relationship. We don't make any money. We don't get paid to do this podcast.
We do not.
We do not get paid at all to do this podcast. Why do we do it? It's just one of those ways that we can extend ourselves over a broad range of people and build deeper relationships. But anyway, that's what Barb does. So her key themes were business moves at the speed of relationships. I'm not sure how mathematically she proves that, but
I think that's.
But I think I get the concept. I get the metaphor behind it. And one of the things, so relationships are, first of all, generating new business is the lifeblood of any business. Generating new customers. If we don't generate new customers, we go out of business, especially in a business like ours where we don't get a lot of repeat business. Anytime you work in a contingency fee type situation, you're not going to see a lot of repeat business. Actually, you hope you don't, because I don't want bad things to keep happening to my clients. I would never hope that on any of my clients. So we constantly have to generate new business. Well, how do you generate new business, which is the lifeblood? And that's, there's two ways. The hard way, the expensive way, is advertising. And we do that. You have to do a portion of that. We do the TV, we do the internet, we do all this fun stuff. But her argument, and I agree with this, is long term, your best way to create that marketing flywheel is to invest in relationships. Investing in relationships with your referral sources. We have the attorney marketing referral program that we do, of which this podcast is a piece of. Our newsletter is a piece of. Our going to lunch and being involved with all these organizations is a piece of that. Same thing with your client base. We want to build relationships with our clients because we certainly hope that they don't need us again, but we know, statistically speaking, sooner or later, they're going to know somebody that needs us, and we want them to think of us and refer those people to us. So I think that's her whole thesis, was about relationship building. And she made this comment, and I'm still digesting this. Maybe you have a thought on this. She says, again, she loves these little frameworks. Authenticity plus EQ, meaning an emotional or your emotional quotient, equals your influence with people.
I love that.
Well, explain it to me, because I've been struggling with it.
I don't know. I mean, I obviously, guys, I missed it. So I was looking at her Instagram, and so, a couple things, Mark. Business moves at the speed of relationships. I'm going to go back to that really quickly because just for example, you and I were evaluating 2 competing vendors. They show up to the exact same conferences that have exhibited in the same exhibit halls. In all practicality, they're competing. You would never have both of them as vendors because they do more or less the same thing, though I'm sure they would not tell you that, and they're very different from each other. And one of them earned our business simply because we knew that salesperson from prior other businesses. We have done business with this. We knew this person. So even before we thought we would become clients of his new company, we were in touch with him. And that's honestly the only reason why, one of the main reasons we're going to, we signed on with that vendor rather than another one, is because of the relationship we had with an existing rep over there. And so
we trusted that person.
We do. We absolutely did. And, he did a lot to earn our business at this company. And so it's, there's a relationship there to echo Barb Betts. There's a relationship there. And so, I was looking on Barb's Instagram, and, what she talks about is that if you're able to connect authentically, that leads to relational intelligence. Her thesis was, on one of her posts, was that emotional intelligence in this day and age is not enough. It's not enough to know that all the things that can check a box off to be quote unquote emotionally intelligent. What you really want to have is relational intelligence, because relational intelligence leads to trust, which is obviously influence. Because basically, you can't lead as a leader if your people don't trust you. You can't sell anything if the people you're trying to sell to don't trust you. So, you can have the best emotional intelligence, Mark, but if I don't trust you, then I have no influence. So that's why authenticity plus EQ equals influence.
Right.
So I love that.
Right. Well, see, authenticity, she says, is the key to people trusting you.
I love that. My return to authenticity, TM. How many times have I said that on?
It's like you have said that
countless times, because I do believe, especially in this day of AI, that it's relationships, because anything can be faked these days. A website can be faked and it can look great, but are you a legitimate company? I don't know, but I'm going to sure post on my, all my Atticus Facebook feed, my Pilma listserv, and I'm going to be like, hey, does anybody know about this company? And what is that? That is a relationship. Those are the people that I'm quote unquote trust, at least to say. And they're like, everybody's like, oh, I've never heard of that company. Regardless of how good your website is, how many quote unquote 5-star reviews you may say you have, I'm really not going to probably give you another thought.
Mm-hmm. So one of the tips that she gave, which just because of them were practicals, she talked about ranking your relationships.
Oh.
And she sort of went into the whole, Google 5-star review thing. So she says, she ranks her relationships on a star basis, 1 star through 5 stars. And she kind of gave these, and these are guidelines. These are not exacts, but she goes, the way she does it is her 5-star relationships she refers to as advocates, people who actively advocate for her and promote her. And she says, contact these people frequently, for example, every 30 days. Then you have your champions, the people who, if asked, will promote you, will say good things about you, but they kind of have to be asked first. But they're still champions. Those are the 4 stars. Said connect with them every 60 days. Then you have 3-star connections, which are just that, just connections. And she says every 90 days. Those are people who know you. They may not advocate for you in any sort of way, but they do know you. Then you have acquaintances, which just people who sort of know you in passing, but they may need to look your name up every time they see you. I got a lot of those. She says every 120 days. And then finally, you just have contacts, people that somehow crossed your path somewhere. And she says, just put those people in your database. And that's where you database market. I liked how she framed that. It just, it's not like I hadn't thought about this before, but the way she just kind of laid it out in that 1 through 5-star framework and gave a timeline on how often you should contact everybody, and especially how the people who just end up being contacts, those just go on your mailing list. Those are not people that you necessarily spend any individual one-on-one time with unless they reach out to you first. But it's just a methodology for managing people, managing that list. And like I said, I have a huge list. And how do I tackle that list? Well, this kind of gives me a framework to tackle the list, and I kind of appreciated that. I thought it was like probably the most practical piece of advice I got from the 3 keynotes, just on what to do on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, I'm going to go back and rearrange my list in this exactly like this. And she gave a methodology for doing it. She called it the 5x5 method, which is you should send 5 messages a day to 5 different people. And each of these messages should have no agenda, and you should not be asking for anything. Just have a contact. I'm going to tell a story. I have to sanitize it because he might listen to this podcast. He or she might listen to this podcast. So
Dear Mark.
We will just keep it as vague. But I had somebody I ran into the other day. Hey, I hadn't seen you in a long time. We were talking, chit-chatting, just having a grand old time talking about vacations and everything. And then right before the conversation ended, because I had to leave, he then flipped the switch and gave me a commercial and asked me to send him business. I was a little offended by that because I just thought we were having a moment, a reconnection moment. And then all of a sudden he turns it into a sales pitch. And I'm like, that could have been done better. That could have been done a less, because in other words, and her point was talk to people with no agenda and no ask. You can ask me later, okay? We can talk about this later. But this is the first time we've reconnected in years.
Oh, wow.
So, take it to the next level. Hey, let's go have coffee, or let's go have lunch, or let's whatever. Hey, can I call you later? Then pitch me. Don't get me wrong. I do believe that you should let people know that you're open for referrals, and make sure you educate your contacts on what you do and why you do it and how they can send business to you. But don't hit them over the head with it, especially the first time that you've seen them in a long time, because it felt very inauthentic to me. So just a war story. Tip. But I like what she said. Call people with no agenda and no ask other than I just want to reconnect. Here we go. So we've talked about relationship matters. We've talked about showing up. The third speaker was, again, the speaker that I can, for the life of me, cannot pronounce, who was talking more about culture. Matthew, give it a shot. Tell me why would you pronounce that?
Emerson?
Emerzian? Okay, we're going to go with that. I don't think that's right, but we're going to go with it.
That's fair.
So he spoke on culture, mattering, and leadership. And I didn't get as many practical takeaways other than I found his backstory very interesting. He used to work in the music recording industry, managing some very famous bands. And he had a few good stories about it. And of course, led him to a drug addiction, and he talked about recovering from his drug addiction and having to go through an extensive rehab program. He didn't get too deep into that. I'm kind of filling in some of the blanks from what I gathered. But I think his basic theme was he realized it was all about, did he matter? Did you matter? Did we matter? And that was his sort of theme that he kept going back to. And it was basically a culture thing. And he talked about human-centered leadership, about mental health, well-being, mitigating burnout. That is one of our core values, and this is why it struck with me, is one of our core values is wellness. And we talk about this at all of our all-staff meetings, which I missed the other day. You're going to have to fill me in on what I missed. Yeah. I know. I feel bad about that.
The team looks forward to seeing you, Marc.
I know. But one of our core values is wellness within this firm. And so we very much are attuned to the wellness of our staff. We encourage them to get sleep. We encourage them to be physically active. We talk to them about the stresses of representing, our client base, which, is going through the toughest times in their lives and can sometimes be, it can be hard to deal with disease, illness, and trauma all day. From the perspective of our employees, it can be hard. And we recognize that, and we try to help them through various ways, talking with them, training with them, telling them to take timeouts throughout the day when the stress gets to them. So that it kind of struck me that the whole, mental health and well-being is part of the culture of this law firm.
Yeah, well, and so you define, all of our core values have a short definition behind it. So wellness, meaning promoting physical and mental health. And that's not just for our clients, but that's obviously for our team members, like you talked about. And
I would say it's primarily for our team members. Yep. Although, yes, we do promote it for our clients as well.
So one of the things that, so you missed a couple of all staffs, and two.
I did.
I'm not telling on you, but I'm reminding you that 2 all staffs ago, we had a guest speaker, a wonderful gentleman, veteran as well, by the name of Jason Murray, and he did an hour-long presentation on mental health for our team during that was our all staff meeting, and he talked about how you handle, because one of the unfortunate realities of our business is that our clients often have frankly suicide ideation, and that's not an easy thing for our team to hear and to hear repeatedly, right? And so how do you respond to that? Obviously complying with the bar and the ethics rules of what you can and can't disclose, but also what are the next steps? None of we do have a couple of social work team members now, but team members with social work backgrounds. But for the most part, we have team members that are trained as paralegals and do not have the mental capacity or knowledge on how to handle that type of conversation. And so I think, Marc, by obviously not only paying for a guest speaker, but by dedicating a full hour of our normal business to someone who could help them with that, shows your commitment to that core value. And I heard a lot of great things from because you did that.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that worked out. So one of the things he talked about was implementing mattering moments within the firm, such as, using team check-ins, maybe celebrating wins, not necessarily wins that make you money, but wins, within the firm, just, hey, we did great here, we helped a client, or we solved a problem, just celebrating the wins, and maintaining, the mental health resources that our team needs, whether it's, a policy that if you get overwhelmed, you have a right to take a break, just take a break. Or if you want to come talk to somebody or whatever you need, we will try to help you with it. We recognize the mental strain that our people can go under. It's not all about just making money.
Yeah, you also, Mark, one of the very practical things you do is we have an employee assistance program, an EAP, where they get access to 2 or 3 free sessions through our PEO. But, I think it's wonderful when companies can provide those types of assistance, like just completely confidential access to professionals who can help them with their mental health.
Yeah. So one of the principles, the leadership principles that he talked about was how you set the tone. And what he said, if the culture is only winning matters, you'll end up losing top talent. And if it's you matter, meaning the employee, if the employee matters, you build loyalty, service excellence, and end up with a competitive differentiation. In other words, keeping your top talent if they feel that they matter. It's not just about winning. It's not just about making money. And I think that we have done a fairly good job of instilling that within the culture of our firm. Not that we couldn't do better. You can always do better, and you can always be looking for those little ways, particularly, I think, to celebrate the wins. People love celebrating wins.
Yeah, one of the things we did a couple of years ago that we should probably do at the close of the year, we should probably do again, is at the close of the year, at the beginning of the year, we had people submit their own personal wins. So like somebody became a grandmother, somebody graduated from whatever degree, somebody, got engaged, got married. And so I think that those wins kind of not only says, hey, I see you, because, we did a little slideshow and then we did that at all staff. And so, but it also creates connections between the team where, they're like, oh gosh, I didn't know you graduated from, got your associate's degree. Congratulations. And, it creates touch points for them to talk to each other about. So I think we should probably do that again in 26.
So finally, in closing, so we have 3 keynote themes, which kind of build a triad for success. You have Dre was talking about mindset. Barb was talking about relationships. And Matthew, whom we cannot pronounce his last name, was talking about culture. And I think that was really the theme of the day, mindset, relationships, and culture. And it was, like I said, it was good. Again, thankfully, they had the tables in the back where I could stand and drink my coffee because my back and my hips started killing me. But anyway, it was a good set of keynotes. I do feel bad that I missed day 2.
You have FOMO too.
I have FOMO for missing day. I was feeling bad. So Shane Cadlick, our good friend, was there, and we have a call set up with Shane later. I'm going to have him fill me in on what I missed on day 2. But anyway, Diana, when we come back, you and I are going to talk about our 5 action steps going forward.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
All right, and we're back. All right, so, the themes that we were talking about, the 3 keynotes, show up like a pro, build relationships that win, and make people feel like they matter. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. So we've been talking about this. So we've had our 5 takeaways. And so Dinah's had to think about this a little bit because she wasn't there.
Yeah, this one's tougher. But
But you did your research, so I appreciate that. So
thank you,
you and your Instagram searches.
No, it gave me a good reason to be on social media today.
Okay.
A legitimate one.
All right. So here's my first action step. My first takeaway. Identify that one third day moment this year and plan how you'll show up anyway. What is the hump? What is the thing that you're trying to get over, or the thing that you anticipate that you're trying to get over this year that is going to cause you some problems? And plan out that third day. Plan out, how am I going to get over the hump? How am I going to persevere? What am I going to do to get around that roadblock? I've been working on some succession planning within the firm. And this has been one of my roadblocks. My key roadblock is a mental roadblock because, nobody wants to think about dying. So I'm having to contemplate my own demise here while I'm thinking about succession planning within the firm. Not that I plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
Gonna say, succession planning, Mark, does not mean that you're dying.
I know, I understand, but there is a mental roadblock. But it's my third day. It's the one thing I've been avoiding. Let's put it that. Let's call it your third day, the thing you avoid because you don't want to deal with it. So figure out how to deal with it. That's the way I'm going to frame it. So that would be my number one.
The one that I really liked was one that you really liked as well, which is to implement Barb's, relationship ranking system. And then, the 5-star thing where you're advocates and, 4 stars, 3 stars.
Right.
So implement that, but then also schedule, when you're going to reach out to what she called her advocates, which were her 5-star contacts that she reaches out to every 30 days. So not only rank your contacts, but then also obviously schedule a touch-in with your primary people.
And I think one of the things that kind of holds me back and may hold back a lot of people, you keep thinking when you have to make that touch that it has to be something formal, like let's have a meeting, let's have a lunch, let's go to dinner. And that's hard to plan. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah.
Send them a text. If they're that close to you, you have a phone, send them a text, send them an email, call them up, leave them a voicemail, just say, hey, thinking about you, just checking in.
Well, and Mark, you're friends with so many people on Facebook. It's real easy to look them up on Facebook and be like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your daughter got married. Congratulations!"
Exactly. I
well.
love to do that. The other little tip that I do is I go on Facebook every morning, and it gives you the birthday list, and I say happy birthday to everybody whose birthday is that day. It's just a little thing, but you would be amazed how many people then ping me back and say, "Hey, thanks, Mark," or something like that.
You'll be unsurprised to realize I took my birthday off of Facebook for this reason.
Yes, I know you and your privacy concerns. But
no,
most people don't. Most people don't.
No, that's awesome. What's your third takeaway, Mark?
Okay. I would say set a team meeting. In our case, it would be an all staff with a You Matter theme. So ask the team how we can amplify that internally. How can we establish a culture within the firm where you matters becomes a central part of our firm culture, and you never know till you ask. I mean, your employees probably have a number of suggestions that the firm could do, we as leaders could do that would make them feel seen and make them feel heard.
Yeah. And then I guess my takeaway then would be the flip of that, which is to also implement client you matter touch points.
Yes.
And some of those things can be as simple as, hey guys, if you hear your client had a surgery the day before, make sure you calendar a follow-up the next day. Say, hey, hope your surgery went well. It is literally, I think, just that simple to say, oh my gosh, you remembered. I'm not just a number for you. And I think that's a major thing for people.
All right. Number 4.
5?
No, did you do 4?
I did.
You did? Okay, you just talked through it and didn't announce you were doing 4.
I said, what's number 5, Mark?
Okay, fine. So number 5, I think is sort of what I would call a tip on making the connections, which is don't do what I just described earlier of making a commercial out of the connection. When you make a connection with somebody, when you call them, when you reach out, when you're trying to create that one-on-one relationship with somebody, don't turn it into a big ask. Don't ask them for anything. Just try to make a connection. And I approach it like this. Ask them what you can do to help them. Turn that on its table, on its head. Don't ever just blast somebody with your commercial unless they ask. And one way to get them to ask, how can I help you? Which, naturally they're going to turn the question around, well, how can I help you? Well, then you can talk about what might be relevant to you. But don't lead with that. Don't just blast somebody with what you can do for them. What can I do for you? So that would be my tip. All right, Diana. So I want you to raise your right hand. Yes. Swear, repeat after me. I will not miss any more Atticus events.
I will not miss any more Atticus events. My fingers are crossed.
Uh-huh. But my toes are crossed, so that counters that. So double negatives.
I don't like missing it. I really do miss the community, the Atticus community, guys. I know we say this a lot, and I think that probably wraps up this whole thing the best way it is. Like, Atticus's value. They do really great tactical things for sure, but it's an incredible community because they do a great job of building an incredible culture, making us feel like we matter. So yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. And disbarments are surprisingly rare. I was just reading the Bar Journal yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
There's a few of them in there, but I go straight to the back to read the disbarment section.
Schadenfreude,
I
man.
know. So anyway, I digress there. Where am I on this closing script? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you've enjoyed this podcast today, rate us and review us and share it with a fellow overworked lawyer who could use a little inspiration or maybe a kick in the butt. For more episodes and resources, visit successfulbarrister.com and be sure to hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. If you want to get in touch with us or just chat, love to chat. And please do not forget, most importantly, do not forget our sponsor, Marc Whitehead & Associates, a national disability law firm at www.disabilitydenials.com. So until next time, let's build a practice, not a prison. See ya.
Bye.